Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle and triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this content and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. I want to say hello to those of you that are already jumping on live. Thank you for being here, for hanging out with us. Listen, if you are watching us live or on the replay, if you could share this video wherever you are so that we can get more eyes on this awesome content. We have a great speaker with us today, and we're trying to share all of the little nuggets of information that she has with us today. So that would so help us out. This is the Her Version podcast. We're built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. So today I have invited an amazing woman to sit with us today. Her name is Dr. Cara Tucker.
Yes.
Get ready for belief restoration, changing old programs, rewiring the brain with no evasiveness, working with your labels, but not letting them own you anymore. Cara is here to talk about the dear pleaser, dear perfect, dear identity, and the dear soul in us, and the emotions that come up with all of these labels. I'm so excited for this lady. Please welcome Dr. Cara. How are you?
Oh, I just felt the video. I was like, yeah, let's do this.
Yes.
Love it. Yes.
That's one of my favorite things when I am when I catch a glance of my guest in the window below. For those of you that have never been on a podcast, we can see, even though we're not live on the screen, we can kind of see each other in the back end. And I can see my guests sometimes getting down to my
I'm like, you gotta have a dance, right? What up, dog?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
you gotta
one
have
of
a
my
dance.
favorites is for sure. Well, listen, Cara, I am so excited to have you here. I know we had an amazing conversation the first time we talked, and it's really difficult sometimes with podcasting because, especially if you talk to the person beforehand, because there's just so much goodness. And then sometimes as a host, I'm kind of low key, like, don't tell me all the things because I want to make sure that we can go over everything and my expressions and stuff are true to what's going on. So it's always kind of a push and pull of like, oh, tell me more. I love you so much. And then also don't tell me anything because
Yeah.
I want to wait for the podcast.
Yes.
So I'm so excited to have you here hanging out with us. I know that you have so much going on in your world right now as far as, who you're working with and the company that you're building and the community that you're building out. So I'm super excited to talk about that. But one of the things that I love to talk about before we get into all the awesomeness that's going on in your life right now is just kind of take a few steps back, because I think a lot of times individuals, when they see individuals like us that are vibrant and they're living their best life and they're stepping into fear and they're doing hard things and they're showing up in their world in a positive way, a lot of times people can kind of look at them and be like, oh, good for you, or, you don't understand. And sometimes we have like stories, we have stuff, we have struggles in our background that we also went through and we also endured. So I love to kind of highlight that. It really allows individuals to relate and to really understand, like, hey, listen, she fucking went through this. Damn, and now look where she is. I can also do that too. And it really gives people hope. So I would love if you could share a story or a pivot or something that's happened in your life, where you were in some sort of a darkness and the pivot that you had to take and what you kind of learned from that story.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a real brief little part of the origin of my story, like classic Dad was addicted to heroin, not classic, but that was my story, shall I say. And raised as what we would call, in the Bronx. Like I, lived, like I just went back to one of the old apartment buildings I lived in, and to my own knowledge being young, I thought it was so big. But when I went back to where I was up, like where I was brought up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a small apartment. Like, and for me, I thought it was so big. So like, luckily I had a roof over my head, but there were many months that we did not have, running water, running heat. Like, my mom was a single mom. My dad left. I remember a distinct memory, my dad leaving. And I purposely created a mask where I lied to my mom, saying things were so good with my dad because I just wanted to spend time with my dad. When in fact it was hell. Like looking back, it was like he was in domestic violence. He was beating women around me. Like he was using, but I just wanted to connect with my dad. So classic, I told my mom, all is good. Things are good. It came to a pivotal moment when we got pulled over by the police, where my dad was drinking and driving, that my mom's like, things haven't been good, have they? Like, well, no. So that literally was the upbringing. My brother was 6 years older than me. So for me, I kind of lived in only child syndrome. So if any of you are whoop, whoop, only children out there, we learn to cope through our imagination. So I had to fantasize about being in another world because frankly, the world I was in was not so great. But then there were pivotal moments where there was such a richness that we didn't have anything. So anything new that was kind of brought in, it was amazing, like we could let that expand for ages. So rewind that's kind of a little bit of that. But fast forward 30 years, I think the biggest part that really is really on my heart to share is that everybody dreams of having like a business and it doing well. And that was my dream. And I literally call it like my golden cage moment. Like I surrounded myself with a golden cage. I did amazing at this business. Like I rocked it. I killed it. I proved to everybody that rags to riches, like you can't do this. Well, I became a freaking doctor. I built a business. I let my dream come true. And then I hit that destination nation and I started going, oh shit, like, why am I so sad? Like, this is not cool. Like, I thought this was it. Like I had my 20 years that I created in 5. And then I was like, well, what the hell? Like, why am I so sad? Mm-hmm. What I soon realized is that I was just really addicted to tasks. And that's where labels started to become very interesting and classic product of my environment. I saw a lot of addicts around me and I didn't realize I was becoming an addiction to tasks. So yeah, that is really where, truth be told, now 44, having that awakening after starting your dream come true. It's like, I should be happy with everything. Like sounds like such a spoiled, rotten brat after you've come from what you've come from. Like just be grateful and just be, please that and be okay to that. And I thought that was my 20-year trajectory and realized, then why am I so sad? As a doctor of clinical psychology, working through emotions all day long, like, hello. But I had to hold it and just be in my sacred sadness for a while to process what the hell was happening to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that the unraveling of the label was starting to manifest, but I did realize that something had to change because what I was dealing with, it was just starting to become excruciating. And so Dear Pleaser was a revelation to me because I started pleasing everybody around me and become addicted to pleasing. I know that sounds strange, but I became addicted to the reward. Like I became addicted to the pleasing because I just wanted to be seen, right? Classic cliche, right? Not really intentionally saying I need to be seen. It was just like, oh my gosh, I want to, build this business and train psychologists. And I did, I trained over 22 beautiful psychologists into the area of Australia and in this beautiful country that I spent the last 10 years. And now I'm back in the United States. So anyway, I could go on, but that was a pivotal moment for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say that you were addicted to tasks, I can relate to this. But can you kind of dive into that a little bit? Like, what exactly does that mean? And what did that help you do? And how did that maybe hurt you?
Yeah, I think it was delivered by just, I got to get this done. This was this voice in me that it's like, only you're going to show up to this. So that was favorable. It was like, I've got to be the one to set up this practice, to start booking the schedule, to start seeing the clients, to start doing the notes to every client. Like, you've got all this red tape of tasks that if you don't do it, you're going to lose your license. Like there was going to be a loss of some sort. So it becomes a reward. That's what you tell yourself in your brain, that there's a condition you have to apply so that if I don't do that, I'm my own authority, yet I'm a bit rebellious because I never really had true authority. Like they were off living their own lives and I could lie to my mom and she had no clue and live in her life. And you know what I mean? Like I created that and I intentionally knew that at like 7 years old. So this task stuff was me thinking and my brain was convincing me that this was survival in a good way. And I was rewarded. So come in with my clinical perspective, dopamine hit, you get rewarded. Every time I crossed that out, it was like another hit, it was like, yeah, nailed that. The dopamine got connected, it got rewarded, dopamine hit again. And it just becomes like it's your next fix. Like you're just so excited. Like you're like, yes, reward.
Yeah.
So much to the point where then when I realized my 9-month-old turned into 9 and I didn't even see it, I realized I was just doing the same thing that my parents did to me, didn't see me. So I needed to change generational issues. And once I got that, I was like, okay, I'm taking responsibility for this here and now. Like I'm not going to continue this addictive cycle. It's not okay. So it can look like anything.
Yeah.
It can hide behind anything. So rewarding, oh yeah, love that. Loved the addiction. Cross that through, tick. But then when I started finding myself automatically just ticking and going, this is never ending. How long am I really, truly going to sustain this?
Yeah.
It was almost like this infringement of punishment that I just, like your typical day of taking care of 10 tasks. I was working 90 hours in tasks, trying to convince myself like that this is sustainable. And I was missing 2 meals a day and found myself in pneumonia going, oh, I've got pneumonia. Like the addiction was so bad that I did not even realize how sick my body was. And this is what you hear about, adrenal fatigue and, but they don't tell you why, because your adrenaline is going somewhere. That's why you have a fatigue issue, is because your adrenaline is going into something. Trust me, I loved it. I was nailing vendors and $30,000 contracts. I was living a real strong corporate life. But then to fulfill that supply and demand, if nobody showed up, if your employees didn't show up, who was fulfilling it?
Yeah.
Who was fulfilling it? It was me. Or at least that's what I thought, right?
Yeah.
Classic ego, right? Dear ego comes in.
Yeah, for sure. When I was going through my people pleasing phase, which was at this point in my life, the majority of my life up to this point, and I started to kind of learn this whole like boundaries and you don't have to do all the things. This kind of hit my identity weird because it was who I was. So I had some real serious like cognitive dissonance around this as far as like, I'm a good person. And I'm a nice person. And how could what I am doing be considered not bad, but just be considered like maybe something that I shouldn't be doing all the time. When you were going through your journey of healing and really coming into this whole, like what you now call dear pleaser and all the other deers that we're, going to kind of touch on a little bit. What was your reaction? Like, what was your, story when you finally like stood back and where you were like, oh, wow.
It's so comforting to hear you say that, because I take myself back into that memory of like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, you're a good person. You created a dream, like that really, like, hey, but why am I so resentful? Like, why am I so angry? And it was like the emotion that I had to hide, because I was like, this is not who I am, but like, why? So this cognitive dissonance of, let me blame other people. Like, how dare them want to come and work for me? And how dare them want to, and it's like, but you created this golden cage and people love you and you love them. And then why am I starting to not like them? And it wasn't that I was starting to not like them. That's where the cognitive dissonance, I was starting to not like myself. So this is where the peeling of this label was like, I had a real cognitive dissonance of, oh my gosh, I just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars setting up my credentials, setting up my business, to work 90 hours a week and to not see my family grow up, and to totally be emotionally unavailable for the people that are willing to love me and put in the hard yards and like just still be here. Like, not that it's based on a condition that people love me, but I thought that act of pleasing was some sort of thing, like, and I didn't realize it. I thought maybe I was supposed to be owed something, but I didn't think that was a subconscious program. I didn't realize that that's what I was expecting after. Like, then I transformed into development. Like, no, I'm showing up, you pay for this, showing. So there was some equality of time and energy. So I started valuing my voice, but people didn't like that. People really, so I can see distinctful phases. 2 years in, my business expanded, people shut off. I got new people because there was an energy exchange. So I did start awakening to that. But I was like, because that resentment, I was like, this is not good for them and it's not good for me. So what the hell? Like, I had to really transition that. So any of you out there that can really relate to this emotional mask that you don't really want to let out.
Yeah.
This is what the book talks about. It's like, these were the hidden labels that nobody really wanted to talk about. And it just so happens that therapists are the keeper of secrets, right? So I just kind of place all these beautiful secrets in there.
Yes. How closely related is dear pleaser to somebody who is a perfectionist?
Oh, okay. So good. You hit the nail. I always say that either dear pleaser is driving, and either perfection is sitting right in the chair next to you. Totally. Because we love making things look right. And, I like that. I was even doing it on getting ready for the pod. I'm like, is my pillow okay? Is everything okay? Like, I'm already falling in. And then it's like, hang on, like, they're going to like me. They're going to not like me. Oh, well, whatever. Like, even still, just those little tiny habits that creep in, that it's like, who cares if the choose happy is okay or not? Who cares? But we care, right? Yeah. That's where the perfection comes in, and we want it to be right. And we, and then I started getting messy, and I'm like, no, I'm not okay with this. This is not my life. Like, I didn't design this. There's got to be another way. So then that's when I decided to sell my golden cage, do things that I love, the pace I love, spend time with family. Yeah, just, it's magnifique is what I like to say. It's, dear soul, dear healing, now.
Yeah. That's awesome. When it comes to, people pleasing, why is it important for someone to pull themselves out of that cycle? Like, what's the big deal if you want your choose happy pillow to be perfect? Like,
Well, so this kind of brings up just kind of like four major concepts is slowing down the narrative. So you'll hear from like Byron Katie, like slow down the narrative, but it's like, but like, what are the parts of the narrative? Like, so I kind of broke it down even further. So obviously, very similar to yours, we love the story. So it's the origin of the story. The reason why I became a dear perfect is nobody saw me in my house. So I had to do things that were a little bit more outstanding that showed that I made that extra effort. And they're like, oh my gosh. So good grades, getting honor rolls all the time. Perfect. And they still didn't really notice it, but I started convincing myself that this was my jam because teachers would see it. And so it's the origin and it's the characters that are played. So if we don't really get cognitively associated to our narrative, we will have a dissonance and these characters will keep showing up in our lives in some way of path of least resistance. They'll keep showing up. Mine just showed up in a business and this before I was thinking that it was me holding it. And it became a very lonely, isolative, sad world. That was my condition. But that's what I did when I was a child. So classic, right? Classic. But nobody would go, you're the one that has childhood issues in this. You're a millionaire, you're making this, life should be good, like get over it. But deeply, I was really sad. So there's these characters that really play. And I was really sad growing up too. I just never knew it. So it's the origin, the characters, but then it's the emotion. And if perfectionistic women, and this is what I've done in my research, perfectionistic women will subdue the emotion to take care of the perfection to reward so that they'll feel good. It's like a feel good hit. So we don't want to feel bad because we get shit done. We take care of business. Like I'm self-sufficient, great woman, like good. Because we don't like what that stuff is doing. It's an irritant. It's annoying. Get out of my way. I need to take care of this. Like the emotion, we just kind of, and that's why I say I do the mindset boutique. I go, come on into my closet. Let's get rid of these wired hangers and let's try on some velvet hangers. Yes, right? So this is where these hidden emotional closets, we start doing an emotional cleansing. And some women just are like, I'm so numb.
Yeah.
That I didn't even realize I was numb.
Yeah.
Like it's consciously becoming aware that this emotional space can be numb and you didn't even know it, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's that. And then there's an aftermath. So when we're numb, what do we do? And I'm going to get really real. Can I get real?
Yeah, of course.
I would go and get my orgasm from my husband. I would go to get it. That was another task. Let me get mine. Let me take care of my intimacy. Let me take care of it and say thank you. It was literally wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But I was doing it to my husband.
Wow.
Like I reflected back at that. That's the aftermath.
Yeah.
I would go into, I didn't eat all day. I would go into the pantry and probably have a little bit, not to the clinical degree of binge, but I'd have a good bag of popcorn because then I finally settled.
Yeah.
And I finally could eat because I was so drilling my body through numbness of task orientation like a robot that I was like, oh, wait, do you need to eat? You know, like, yeah, let's eat. So that's the aftermath that I'm talking about.
Wow.
So in my research, I started getting really down and dirty with these labels and starting to see that there's typical aftermaths of short, sustainable happiness, soothing things. We'll go shopping real quickly. Well, these are just these moments that we convince ourselves, yes, I feel good now. Okay, back at it.
Yeah.
So again, I'll highlight origin of story, the characters, the emotional hidden space, and then of course the, the aftermath of it all. So those are the 4 main things we go into
Yeah,
when I
that
work with
totally,
my peeps.
totally makes sense. Coming from the story that you're talking about, as far as the classic heroine story,
Right. Everybody has a heroin addicted dad.
I want to ask, how or when or why, like, where did personal development and growth hit you in the face? Like, was this a book, an aunt, a YouTube video, church? Like, how did you wind up falling into this arena from that?
Oh man, there's so many trajectories, like pinpoints of that. But my very first one was when I got the word that my dad died. And I was sitting in front of my psychology board in my university degree. Mind you, let me just show you how addicted I was. I got 2 degrees in 3 years. So I did 2 full degrees in just 3 years. That's how addicted I was. It was like there for the longest time and I didn't even see it. But I convinced myself that I had, but I never built any relationships. I got no friendships out. Like, anyway. So I'm sitting in front of the board and I failed the test for my last comprehensive exam in my college degree. And the board sat in front of me and they said, Cara, like, this is not you. You're like honor roll student. Like, how could you fail your last exam? They're like, what's been going on?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, and I just rattled it off like nothing. I said, yeah, my dad just died this week. And they were just like, they all looked at me. And I think it was their faces that I was like, is there something wrong here? Like, I know it sounds crazy because we're all crazy. It's not a competition. But what meant to me the most was to get that degree. And then I failed this test. And then that's when I think it was like, Cara, you need some help. So luckily in my master's degree, they said you have to do 24 hours of therapy to even begin or start the program and begin and get the certificate. So they required us to do therapy. We had to do therapy. And I sat through that. And then that's truly, I think, how old was I? It doesn't really matter. I literally was like 22 because my dad died when I was 19. And I think that in that trajectory, I was like, yeah, I need to introspectively see what the hell is going on. Because even the degree and learning psychology, and I always had that observer self that I was always going to help and be there and be the pleaser for other people. Not once did I do any of the work for myself. I would always externally think of that person I could potentially help, which is part of the story, right? Let me rescue my dad because he couldn't rescue himself.
Yeah.
Totally fine. That's what the beautiful thing is. I became a therapist for 20 years. Like, awesome. But I needed to be a therapist to myself too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What did mourning your dad look like for you?
For the very beginning, more tasks. Let me get to the next goal. Let me show him how proud he would be of me. So I use that in with the dialogue because really that's what I wanted. So I was like, oh, he'll be proud of me. But then when it really hit me that I prayed and I was like, you haven't been dealing with this. Is your dad really okay? Because the whole moral thing, like with therapy, the concept of death and morality, it kind of hit me like, where did he go? Like, is he okay? Like, is he okay? Is he just in some dirt? Like, is he possibly really okay? And I think that's when my soul or my spirit was like, I just prayed and I had a dream that night and he came to me in a dream and he was playing a guitar. He played with Stevie Ray Vaughan. Like, he was kind of in that crew, and he was just brilliant guitarist. And he goes, I'm playing the guitar like I've never played. And I'm dancing up here like I've never danced, because his body got so decrepit at such a young age. Like, he was 44. And what's so crazy is I'm 44 and I'm telling this story. This is just bizarre right now. Anyway, so he legitimately came to me in a dream, and he says, I'm fine and it's great. And I'll watch after you. It's going to be fine. That was so relieving that I don't think I needed to mourn him, but I've never really looked at death probably like most people. So being a therapist, it kind of confirmed, majority than not, people do believe that something else exists. Majority. So that was more of a piece. So it was more freeing, I think. But I've never been in the ritual thing, never done this, let me go to a graveyard. Like, I've never done that. I've never liked to. I don't care to. I'm not really into ritualistic sort of things. But to each his own. Whatever you need, please do that. As long as it gives you a sense of peace or relief, do it. But for me personally, I don't know. I've got a deeper connection, I think. Not saying that those that don't, but sometimes people just need that to see it tangibly. But when you live kind of in an intangible world, with hidden feelings and these things that are intangible, you kind of get used to that intangible life. So to me, I've always felt like, hey, if I want to connect, I'll just pray. And usually it comes in a dream, which is so bizarre that I'm saying that right now. But yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Through this journey that you have been on up until this point, I feel as there's probably a few limiting beliefs that you've kind of had to acknowledge and
keep acknowledging.
Yes. Do you mind sharing one or two with us as far as, ones that you've had to really acknowledge and overcome and continue to,
Gosh, that's such a good question. And I knew you'd give me a question. And it's like, okay. My limiting belief was that I thought I could be a person who could save everybody who sat down in front of me.
Ooh.
I knew I was good, right? Like, egolicious, but I had 6-month waiting lists. People would pay $400 an hour to see me.
Wow.
And everybody said, you can't charge that much in this area. And I said, watch me.
Wow.
People want good help, but there was this God play in that, like I was God. That's when egoliciousness and limiting beliefs. Humility strikes when you know that part of that limiting belief is, as a therapist, and I started training this, and that painful experience of knowing you can't save everybody, that I know every single person who has suicided on my case. You don't ever forget that. And so the humility in that has nothing to do with you. You can be a guide, you can be a pillar, you can be a light, you can really spar with somebody mentally as much as you want. But if they want to go, they're going to do everything that they can to go.
Yeah.
But I just learned that through that, my fear of limiting beliefs is how deep was I willing to go? How far in the darkness? So when somebody came to me and said, hey, not that I want this to be a downer, but we'll bring it back up. But how far are you willing to go in the depths of feelings? Somebody has a concept that they want to die. Well, how do you want to do it? Have you planned it? But people who are first starting in coaching or therapy or whatever, face your fears, because it's going to happen. When working with human nature, the depths, I just started getting really comfortable in the emotional moodiness and darkness of people. And I accepted it. So, but I didn't have that in the beginning. I thought I didn't have any fears and I could conquer it all because what I've been through ain't nothing. But when you work in a prison and you start seeing people, dying and killing other people, and literally that was 8 years of work of my life. It's, life becomes really quite precious, So that was but I was willing to surrender to my own fear and resistance. And I think that's what personal development should be. Surrender to your resistances,
Yeah. That reminds me of a show I was watching, maybe on Netflix. I don't know. Teal Swan. Are you familiar?
No, I haven't heard of this one. But again, I've just moved back to the States like 4 months ago. So I'm just,
I don't even know if she's in the United States. But anyway, she is a life coach. And I'm not even going to begin to try to explain what she is, but some sort of a spiritual awakening, mystical, magical life coach, predominantly for females, but not just females. But that is one of the things exactly very similar to what you said, as far as people who are dealing with thoughts of ending it. And she does that. She goes very real and raw as far as how and when and why haven't you already? And let's do it right now.
Yep.
And just allowing people to kind of sit in that emotion, as far as like, if this is a subject that you're really truly trying to do, well, I mean,
it's almost like a permission.
Let's plan it out,
Yeah.
And really allowing people to kind of pull up the emotion of like, holy shit, wait, what? In order to get people to actually recognize, like, actually, no. Actually, no.
Well, and some of the people that are in this community that actually know me personally, they actually know that I'm very connected. So that was also another thing, is just kind of coming out of the spiritual closet. Because you don't say that kind of stuff, wackos, woo-woo, stuff. That kind of stuff I could never bring. Like, I would have been probably placed in a psych ward and called psychotic based on the things that I've experienced and what I know. And the deeper I go into meditation and just get connected, like, people would literally go, are you inside my head? Like, I've never said anything out loud. Like, how do you know that? I had to literally, my clients were asking me that. And I'm like, I had to ask myself that. I'm like, how do I know this? Wow. So that was another limiting belief of like, oh, I just thought it was intuition and second nature. But they're like, no. Like, I've never told you that. How did you know that? And I'm like, ooh. So when they started asking me questions, I was like, ooh, maybe I should look into this thing, whatever this is. So I didn't really know the language. I was like, I don't even know what this is, like intuition. And then that is what started kind of a more spiritual journey. So some of your people know me quite well in this community. And so I'd say that I have gone into prophetic training and trying to really understand why I know this. So I do believe some of this might stretch some of the belief systems, but sometimes some of us may be really welcome to it. But I think some of us chosen to do a human experience, and we just happen to be very spiritual people. So, so it's just kind of warming up to that, because the things that I was dealing with, like, how and why did I always find myself in these predicaments, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's the spiritual journey I chose here. Okay, cool. So now those that are willing to go there, like just last week, I performed a spiritual emergence on somebody who was not welcoming their human self into their spiritual, like they just wanted to be going back. So it's kind of like, just stuff that I would never say out loud, but I told myself this year, I'm just going to get loud and I'm going to get proud and I'm going to say who I am. And so I appreciate the space to be able to peel out of that human label, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's where the book came in. It was a download. I literally wrote it in 3 days. I always say I don't even feel like I was writing it. I
Wow.
feel like I was just a vessel, and it was just like,
Wow.
it was just bizarre. It was the most bizarre experiences I've ever felt in my life. Like it just, like when you're driving and you're like, how did I even get here?
Yeah.
Like I should have been in an accident multiple times because I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever have those moments and you're like,
Yes.
how in the heck did I get here?
Yeah.
It's like, is somebody looking out for us?
Yeah.
So
Can
just things
you
like that.
touch a smidgen on, we talked a lot about Dear Pleaser, but I know you have a few others. You have Dear Perfect, Dear Identity, and Dear Soul, to name
Yeah.
a couple. Can you just touch lightly on what those are, what those mean?
Yeah. So the book is chapters as a memoir to peeling out of the label. So first we have to acknowledge the label, recognize it's there because we need them. It becomes a bit like the human brain needs language, a lexicon, an anchor to just go, okay, like when I say pleaser, I kind of understand what that means. So language is huge. And I think it's very important that we have to create a form. So that's the structures of the book. But it was like a memoir to that these were the main labels that were visiting me. And like Dear Perfect is, the story that I just mentioned, Dear Pleaser, Dear Perfect, that classic, like, I've got to be so good at what I do because that's the reward, whether it's for other people or myself. So being able to slow down the narrative and acknowledge this. Dear Soul is like exactly what I mentioned. You might be in a spiritual closet going like, I have intuition. Like, how do I know this? Like, how can I walk into the room and just feel the atmosphere? And you just know what's going on in the atmosphere. And you're like, whoa, is that mine? Is that theirs? Like, what's going on? And, we don't talk about this sort of stuff. We just chuck it up to going, oh, but when we slow things down and we all have this availability and ability, are we peeling out of 13 different identities in a lifetime? The cocoon effect, butterfly, emerge, go back in. I'd say I'd probably been in about 4 cocoons already,
Wow.
So it's just like we talk about these sort of things, the identity and when you have reactions. So as I was mentioning about like the, the aftermath, it's like these identity of, am I just doing this for everybody else? Has this identity been prescribed? Like I talked to a lot of people that they went into the trajectory they went because their parents wanted them to do that. So it's like that identity, whose choice was that identity? Did you step into identity because you were lost? So we talk about like your emotional stagnation and where that is at. So if you have temper tantrums or tanties, as we call them in Australia, you have a tanty. It's like, what age is that coming out? Are you constantly having an argument with your spouse? And like, what age would you put that at? What identity development stage is this? And we talk about that, like I talk about that in the book, So it's the dear identity and how it's showing up. And if you were to put an emotional age to it, what is your emotional age? And when does that want to regress? And what areas is it regressing? And it doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just means start paying attention to these sort of layers that are supporting these labels.
Absolutely.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that concept. And I do so appreciate the simplicity of it.
Yes. It's a very like, I call it my moody book, but it's for really people who don't really know what they feel about therapy, but people are getting smarter. And I just did a post on this. It's like, Dear Siri, Dr. Google, well, if you're going to become your own psychologist, we might as well give you the tools. And that was the download I got. It's like, if you're going to want to become your own doctor, well, then here's the book to do it. So this book literally is do it yourself, listen to the, what's the narrative in it to support the label. And then it gives you journal prompts to dive deeper, clear up some things, and you'll hit every label roughly that there is, because I knew that people are starting to get really clever and smart and they want to do things themselves. So it's like, well, here's a do-it-yourself book. Here's just 20 years of experience thrown in there.
Perfect. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I
have a copy of it.
Where can people find the book, by the way? Is it on your website?
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Beautiful.
So it's fun. Yeah.
So I want to take a moment to acknowledge those that are watching us live. Thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us. If you could share this video wherever you are watching us at, so we can get more eyes on this awesome podcast and these wonderful ladies like Dr. Cara, who come on here and share some wonderful information to the audience. But I would love for you, I mean, it's, we've been going through a lot of what you do and your concepts, but I would love for you to kind of just tell us the name of your business, who you help, what specifically do, where people can find you.
Yeah. So for those, I always have said my business model now, because I had to be gentle and say, okay, I walk with the walkers, I jog with the joggers, and I run with the runners. So there's some people that are like, just maybe not ready. And they're like, you know what, maybe just a book will do. Okay. In regards to this, because personal development can hurt. You start becoming really aware and it can hurt. Yeah. So there's pain, healing. So, those that really want to dive deep and go at it, like I provide private counseling. One of my biggest pains in therapy was come and see me in 3 weeks or come and see me in 2 weeks. But the conditions didn't change. They'd still be bringing the same thing, use this tool. And I asked myself, like, why wasn't therapy really doing, like, it can change a little bit and it can heal a little and but it doesn't really get in. So my program offers an option to be able to connect with me daily. So the program I have and the real intensity is I do private coaching, mainly those who are mainly women, but I'm not partial to it because some men can be very feminine in nature. So it actually works for them. So it's great. And that's private coaching. Then I've got like a subscription membership group that they don't get me personally, but they get trainings from me. They get some of these extra mindset. It's literally $11 a month. So I wanted to reach people that it's like, hey, 2 cups of coffee a month, you can pay for this. So I wanted to meet that you still can get the work, some solid, strong work, great expertise for minimum and less than therapy session, right? So I've got that. Then I've got a free support group that's called the Mindset Boutique, that it's in my Facebook page. And that's all in the links of my website. So you can see that. And then that's pretty much it. So I've got a subscription group and then I've got intense work, and I'm still able to kind of work only, 10 hours a week now. So
I love it.
Amazing. Yeah.
I love it. Where do you hang out with mostly on social media? Where can people find you?
I've been starting to hang out more on Instagram, really liking it, but I do mainly sit in Facebook, and other, obviously, like Voxer, and that's my main hangout once you get open doors to me. But yeah, so Facebook and Instagram is where I hang. And I'm starting to learn TikTok. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I just want really good, solid education for everybody to learn.
Yeah.
Because, we're coming of the age, everybody's learning on their own. So.
Yeah, definitely. What are your big dreams for your business and your community?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I should share this one yet, because I shared it with you. I don't know if you remember because you talked to umpteen people. My dream is the labels from the book coming to life in a
Yes, I
yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
You know
So
what's so funny about that is
I
I think about that all the time. I
well,
really
maybe
do.
there's more to this. Maybe there's
I
more
think
to
about it
this
all the time.
because your husband's like in fashion and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So the boring, like, I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but I get so, have you heard of the red infested waters? Like everybody's eating shark infested waters and the blue ocean concept. Like you have to do things different. Like you just have to, because everybody gets boring of it. Like, are you okay day? You know what? It's starting to get boring. Honestly, like if you're not okay, well, then what are you going to do with that? Like, it's great to have an acknowledgement, but how many things do we have acknowledgements for every day now? Like every day there's something and it just starts getting habituated. So it's kind of like a cross pollination. So my big dream is just think mini Met Gala meets mental health. And I want my labels to come to life on a fashion show, but it's going to be an experiential mental health process where people are actually getting techniques as they go through it, but the proceeds are provided for people who have, single parents, programs that can be readily available to support not-for-profit.
Yeah.
So that's my big dream. That's where it's headed. Trust me, it's going there. So if you know anybody in the community that want to be housed under a collective designer, like to put your fashion show, because we're thinking about a soft launch in Australia in Mental Health Month. So we want these labels to come to life, but we want the fashion designers to tell their story, tell what label resonates with them the most, express that from an internal in, because I feel like there's a lot of creatives and a lot of artists that don't really get the right mental health. And this is really not partial to anybody, but it's selective but we want to create an experiential event. And I don't want it to just be a one-time thing. I want it to be like an annual event. And it's going to become a gala where the best of the influencers to anybody who wants to come in to have a seat can live it, be in it, but then also have an amazing experience with mental health. But then the proceeds go to supporting. And I'm working with somebody who does a lot of work in Saudi Arabia where some of the women, and this is what's really exciting because I've always seen this as a philanthropic missions work, but very quickly, just the heart of international work is that she works with women who are literally starting schools. And these women are having a voice in some of these real doctrinized sort of culture. And these women are actually getting schooling and they're breaking the mold and they're having a her nation, like they're having a voice and they're being seen by the support of these governmental structures. So these women are now getting, schools and they're learning and it's just so good.
That is fantastic. And I think that it's a brilliant idea. And I would love to see that come to fruition for sure. I almost feel like announcing that on Her Nation and seeing if there's any fashion designers.
Yeah, so I definitely am looking for fashion designers. So I need this to take form and I need your help. So the call out is I need fashion designers or anybody who has like tech knowledge, video knowledge, anything that'd be willing, but I've got to have it as like almost like a voluntary thing because right now we're setting up grants and we're really looking for that. But it's because you just care about. So if you have a talent, this is like a call for the talents and you're just willing to get it out there because you will be seen, you will be known. Like you're going to have your business, your name spread all over it, lots of love to be housed in an event like this. And I need to get it out because like, I think there's just that dear fear, like, but no, like it's happening. And you get all these quotes and you're like, I won't work with you and it'll only be for this much. No, it's like, no, I want you to want to do this because you believe in the mission. You
Yeah.
believe in mental health and you believe what it stands for. So if you want to know, just email me and say, this is my talent. This is what I'd love to do. And yes, we will take form, but we're partnering with Charleston Fashion Week. So that's going to be a part here in the United States. So if you know anybody in, Charleston, South Carolina, North Carolina, any of these areas, but if there's an area where you're at that Fashion Week would be interested in this concept, let me know, because they're also saying this is a brilliant idea too. And that's why they want to partner.
That is fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. This is the kind of stuff that like comes to us when we're clear of all of the garbage and we're stepping fearlessly into our business and what our mission is. Just these brilliant ideas, but it's like stepping into that fear of like taking that step into that business is what starts to percolate just all of this brilliance. And
for anybody in your audience, it starts with, if your conditions are holding you back, right? Like if your conditions of worry, you're never going to see the clarity.
Yeah.
You're just going to see it's going to be so much resistance of blocking, and everybody has the gift of sight. Everybody has the gift of vision.
Yeah.
Now I'm just learning to walk into every single vision I have. Like now I don't care. Like when I'm like, hey, I'm doing this human thing. Well, let's get stuff done then. Let's go.
Yeah.
Not get bogged down by it. It's like we get so caught in the cobwebs of our brain. And we go, oh, but I don't get visions like you. Well, it's because you're focused on the worry or the conditions that are happening or the meanings, and it just kind of barricades you. But if I can say, everybody has this gift, everybody.
Yes.
So
100% agree.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do?
I think from a very young age, I knew, like I said no to the FBI. So I knew I was going to go international, and I've always felt international, big things, big money makes love shine, light shine, and bigger missions to be made. And if that means that we're going to take care of a well where a woman doesn't have to be raped to go and get water, to go and grab water because she doesn't have clean water in her village, but she ends up getting raped at least one time a day just to go get water. I'm sorry, I wanted new problems. I wanted more problems. I wanted new problems to solve. So for me, I've always been like big visionary, big plans, and still focus on the details. And I always have a coach to keep me in detail orientation, because it's not my strong suit. Mm-hmm. But I can give you a hell of a big vision, and every vision, it's come to truth. So you got to believe, and you've got to believe in your voice, Yeah, come on, get this stuff done. Move it. Yes. So true. So true. So yeah, I just say, if you're casted for a bigger vision, it's meant to be yours. So it's not going to anybody else. So who's going to show up to it,
Exactly. Well, this has been fantastic. I so appreciate you, the simplicity of the value that you brought today, especially for those that are just stepping into what this whole world is and what it can do for you. Sometimes it can be super scary. So I so appreciate you bringing that to us, and really allowing individuals to take that baby step into really being able to conceptualize, what these areas are. I think it's just brilliant of you. For those of you that resonated with Dr. Cara and all the goodness, make sure you check out our website, beunlabeled.co. I believe your book is on your website.
Yeah. Yep. It's on my website, and you can just go, to Amazon. It's there too. But yeah. And if I can say, Sabrina, for some of you that have been on the journey with Sabrina, like, this girl is switched on, turned on, and knows what she's talking about. Like, so if anybody has been hesitant, like, do not hesitate to work with this chick. Like, she knows it. So I just want to say it's women like you that just really, I'm still nurturing that connection space. So I just see you for women like you who go even and expand that heart even more. It takes a lot to do that. So I'm just so grateful that you do that. So thank you. And for any of you that have been hesitant to work with her, work with her. Like, there are just people, so.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for acknowledging the hard work, because yes, to all the things, yes. But I love it. And this is, the brilliance that you were just talking about as far as big vision. I mean, when you have something that's just percolating, just bubbling up inside you, you just got to go. You just got to step into it and do whatever it takes to get that thing done. And it is hard. There is going to be hard work with this beautiful gala that you're envisioning. But it's like, when it's in there, you have to. It's almost like an obligation.
Yes.
So I'm excited to kind of jump into her nation and do a call out for you, a call to action for you, and see if there's any fashionistas in our group.
That's more than what I ever imagined. This was plenty, but I'm just so grateful for that. Yes, I would love that. I would love that.
And it's all about connecting and networking, right? So know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and that's how we make things happen. And that's what Her Nation is all about, is just really building connection and really networking off of each other to step up, Yeah.
I need you, ladies. I need you. I've learned to surrender. I can't do it on my own. And it truly is. So so if anybody would love to just have a conversation about it, I'd love to. I just love talking about it.
Yes. Well, if you resonated with Dr. Cara and all the goodness that she shared today, make sure you check out her website, beunlabeled.co. She has her book on there. She hangs out on Facebook, and she's dabbling in Instagram and TikTok right now. So make sure you find her. We love to connect people here on this platform in order to make sure that we all continue to rise. I want to thank everyone who's still hanging out, listening to us live. Thank you for being here. For those of you watching us on the replay, if you could hashtag replay wherever you are watching us at, so we can show you some love. But this community is expanding every single day. It's filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast, make sure you like and subscribe. If you have a story to share, find me at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. Until next